What's up everyone, Joseph here. In this video, we're going to take a look at the grammar that's on page 54 on unit 8 of the book. I'm going to talk about how many, how much, and quantifiers. So let's begin. How we use how many and how much to ask about the quantity or amount of something. The quantity or amount of something. It can be for people, animals, things, or ideas. The difference is the situation where we use them. So how many is used for countable nouns. We use it to make questions about the amount or the quantity of countable nouns only. So how many days are there in this month? How many days are there in this month? It's asking about the amount, the quantity of days in a month, in this month specifically. And days is a countable noun, so we use how many. How many people are there? Again, people is a countable noun, so we use how many with people. Now, how much is for uncountable nouns? Again, nouns that cannot be counted. How much milk is there on that container? Milk is an uncountable noun. Remember, you cannot count milk. So, you must use how much to make a questions, to ask a question, excuse me, with how much. So the structure, these are the structure, how many plus a countable noun plus are there plus complement. This is like a general structure on how to create questions with how many and how much. There are other ways, but today we're going to focus on this structure. So how many countable nouns are there? Plus a complement. How many people are there tonight? How many people, countable noun, are there that sits somewhere tonight? And how much plus an uncountable noun plus is there plus a complement? How much rice is there? For example, rice is an uncountable noun. And remember, on the last grammar we talked about are there and is there. And is there is used for uncountable noun, and are there is used for countable nouns in plural. Because yes, these questions with how many and how much are made assuming that the noun is plural or an uncountable noun, because we're asking about the amount. If it's a lot of the countable noun, or if it's a lot of the uncountable noun. If it's few, if it's little, if it's a lot, if it's much, if it's many. It's always asked, assuming that the amount is plural. Even if the answer is singular, you ask the question in its plural form. Um, you cannot say how many countable noun, for example. How many people is there? No, you don't say that. Or how many a pen is there? No. You always ask the question, assuming that the answer is going to be plural. So how many pens, for example? Or how much water is there? You always ask the question assuming that the answer is going to be plural. Even if the answer is going to be singular, and even if you know that the answer is going to be singular, you always have to make the question assuming that the answer is going to be plural. So let's continue. Remember that is there is used for uncountable noun, and are there is used for countable noun. Repeating the information here. So you can also ask for the amount of something with this format. There is another format to ask about for the amount of something. Are there plus many plus countable noun plus the complement. For example, are there many buildings in that complex? Are there many countable noun buildings in that complex? uh, the other structure with much. Is there much plus uncountable noun plus complement? Is there plus much plus humidity, excuse me. Is there much humidity in this city? Humidity is uncountable. You cannot count humidity. Uh, the difference is that the questions with are or is there are yes and no questions. These questions are yes and no questions. So you have to start the answer with a yes or no. Questions with how many and much are WH questions. So you have to answer with the details. For example, how many people are there tonight? You have to answer with the details exactly. How many people are there? There are 7 people. Uh, are there many people there tonight? Yes, there are 7 people there. You can answer the questions with yes, there are, and leave it at that. You can do that. Yes, there are. And you can also answer yes and then write the details. Excuse me. Uh, and you can answer with yes there are, and you can also answer with yes and then complete the answer with the details. Yes, there are 7 people there. How much humidity is there in this city? You can answer, we have to answer with the details. There is a lot. You're being specific. How much? There is a lot. Not very specific, but answering with a quantifier. Is there much humidity in this city? Yes, there is. You can answer with a lot at the end. Yes, there is a lot, if you wish, and you can also answer with yes, there is, and leave it like that. As simple answer as that. You can use quantifiers to describe an specific amount in a sentence. Uh, there are a lot of birds in that tree. There are a lot of birds in that tree. A lot is not a number, but you know that it's a big quantity. It's another type of quantifiers. Remember, we saw quantifiers some videos ago, some minutes ago. We saw quantifiers. These are other quantifiers that do not specify the numbers, but it's like another way to say that there are many, there are a few, you know, uh, they represent a percentage. A lot is like a big percentage, not being very specific, but it's like a big number. And that's what we're going to see now, the different types of quantifiers. Use a lot for both countable and uncountable nouns. A lot is like a big number, like almost, well, not being specific with percentage, but a big number. There are a lot of cars on the street today. There is a lot of water in the river. Again, a lot is like a big amount, a big quantity. Use many for countable nouns. Many is similar to a lot, but many is only for countable nouns. There are many restaurants on this avenue. There aren't many restaurants on this avenue. And you use much for uncountable nouns. Much is similar to a lot, but for uncountable nouns only. There is much to do before the party starts. There isn't much to do before the party starts. So again, a lot, you can use a lot for both countable and uncountable nouns. But many only for countable nouns and much for uncountable nouns only. But they are similar. They are um referring to the same amount, which is a big amount. So a few and a little are used are referred to a small amount, the opposite of big, a small amount. Use a few for countable nouns only. There are a few boxes in the car. Again, boxes is a countable noun. So we use a few with boxes. And use a little for uncountable noun. And there's a little traffic in Santiago these days. Again, a little, a small amount. Small amount. And there is a little traffic in Santiago these days. The traffic, again, is uncountable. So we use a little. Okay. So we use any for both countable and uncountable nouns. There isn't any milk inside this container. Milk, uncountable. And there isn't any egg on the table. Again, any for can be used for countable too. There aren't any trees in this neighborhood. Countable, any. Uh, we can use, remember, we can use any for countable and uncountable. Remember, we use any in negative sentence and in questions only. So these examples are negative sentence. This is we have seen this before in other topics, but we are reviewing this part again. We use any in negative sentence and in questions only. Okay, so finally, we use none for both countable and uncountable nouns too. We need water, but there is none here. How many cameras does the bank have? There are none. And remember, we use none to replace the noun that we're talking about. For example, here, we need water, but there is none here. So instead of saying water again, we use none. For example, we need water, but there is no water here. You don't have to repeat the word water, you just have to use none. Instead of saying no, but there is no water here, you just say there is none here. How many cameras does the bank have? There are none. Instead of saying there are no cameras, you just say there are none. And it's the same thing. You don't have to repeat the word camera again. I mean, you could, but it doesn't sound natural. It sounds like you're repeating again and again. It's not something native speakers do. So this is the end of the video. I will see you on the next one. Have a nice night.